Have you ever had the feeling that the life you're living isn't really yours? That you're following a script handed to you by parents, teachers, friends, and society? And somewhere deep within, something is silently screaming that none of it feels right? Every day you wake up, wear the same mask, go through the motions, fulfill obligations, speak to people like everything's fine. But when the noise fades and silence finally arrives, an uncomfortable question returns. Who am I, really? That sensation, that disconnection, isn't random. Carl Jung believed it's a symptom of something deeper, something most people spend their lives avoiding. Because the truth is, many go from birth to death without ever truly meeting themselves. They become roles, identities constructed to please others, ideas of who they think they should be. And the saddest part? They believe that's all there is. They die without ever touching their soul. But what if this is happening to you? What you've been calling yourself may not be you at all. Your personality, your desires, your values. How much of it was truly chosen, and how much was programmed into you before you even knew how to question it? From childhood, we're trained to fit in, to be good, likable, controllable, to hide our intensity, to suppress our feelings, to adapt. We build a mask, a version of ourselves Jung called the persona, a social costume we wear to be accepted. At first, it protects us, but over time, the mask becomes thicker, more polished, more automatic, and eventually we forget who we are without it. The worst part? It works. The persona gets you praise, safety, love, but it comes at a cost. You start to feel hollow. You begin to sense that what you show the world isn't who you are, that no amount of achievement or applause can fill that inner emptiness, because what you really crave isn't outside you. It's buried within, beneath all the expectations, all the conditioning, all the stories you were told about who you should be. And here's the hard truth. To find your true self, you must face everything you've avoided, everything that was pushed down, everything you were told to hide. It won't be easy, but it's the only path to freedom. In this video, we'll explore the psychological journey Jung called individuation, the process of becoming whole, of integrating the hidden parts of your psyche, and finally remembering who you are beneath the mask. So if you're ready to stop performing and start discovering, let's begin. From the moment you were born, you began learning how to survive in a world full of expectations. Maybe you were taught to be polite, to stay quiet, to always be pleasant. Or maybe you were told to be strong, to never cry, to pretend everything was fine, even when it wasn't. Without realizing it, you began shaping an identity not just to express yourself, but to be accepted. You began crafting a version of you that others would approve of. Carl Jung called this version the persona. It's the social face you wear, the role you play to fit in, to belong, to be safe. And if you think you don't have one, think again. If you've ever acted differently around coworkers, family, friends, or strangers, then you've met your persona. It isn't inherently bad. In fact, it's necessary. Without the persona, we couldn't function in society. But here's where it becomes dangerous. When you forget, it's just a role. When the mask becomes so seamless, so habitual, that you start to believe it's you. Ask yourself, how many times have you said something you didn't mean just to be liked? How often have you hidden what you really felt just to avoid judgment? How often have you smiled when all you wanted was to scream? That's not authenticity, that's survival. And the longer you live like this, the more disconnected you become from your essence. The persona keeps you socially acceptable, but it cannot nourish your soul. It can win applause, but never give you meaning. Over time, this disconnection creates an inner void, a sense that something vital is missing, but you can't quite name it. And the more you cling to the mask, the further away your real self drifts. But if the persona is not the real you, then who are you beneath it? To answer that, we must turn to the other side of the psyche, the part you've been avoiding, the part that holds everything you were taught to suppress. Jung called it the shadow. And while the persona helps you fit in, the shadow contains everything that made you feel like you didn't. This is where the real journey begins. But beware, what's hidden in the shadow is not easy to face. Still, without it, you will never truly know who you are. So if you're ready, we'll go deeper. Because freedom doesn't come from pleasing the world. It comes from reclaiming yourself. If the persona is the mask you wear to be accepted, then the shadow is everything you hide to avoid being rejected. But here's the paradox. What you repress doesn't disappear. It hides. And in hiding, it gains power. The shadow isn't just an abstract concept. It's alive in your unconscious. It whispers behind your thoughts, tugs at your emotions, and steers your decisions when you least expect it. Jung described the shadow as the dark twin of the persona. It holds the parts of you are told to silence. Your anger, your desire, your wildness, your vulnerability. Not all of it is negative. Much of it is simply unapproved. Maybe you were curious as a child and were told to shut up. Maybe you showed sensitivity and were called weak. Maybe you felt rage and learned to swallow it. All of it, all the pieces that didn't earn approval, were pushed into the dark. But darkness does not equal evil. These parts of you don't vanish. They wait, and they return. In the form of unexplained anger, jealousy you can't admit, self-sabotage that strikes at the worst possible time, a sudden overreaction to a small comment. These are not random. They are signs the shadow is surfacing. And when you ignore it, it doesn't go away, it takes over. That's how people become trapped in repeating cycles, ruining relationships, wrecking careers, undermining their own potential without ever understanding why. But here's what most never realize. Your shadow is not your enemy. Within it lie your most powerful qualities, your raw energy, your creativity, your authenticity, even your true strength. To become whole, you must reclaim what was once disowned. And that doesn't mean becoming dangerous or impulsive. It means integrating, accepting, and healing. So how do you face what has been buried for so long? How do you confront your shadow without letting it consume you? The answer lies in what Jung called the self, the deepest, truest version of who you are. The self isn't another mask. It isn't an ideal. It's the totality of you, conscious and unconscious, light and shadow, mind and soul. And finding it is not a moment. It's a journey, a descent into the inner world, a confrontation with what you fear most, and the beginning of something real, something that cannot be taken from you. In the next chapter, we'll explore what it truly means to meet yourself, and why this is the only path to becoming free. If the persona is the role and the shadow is the hidden, then the self is what lies beyond both. It is the wholeness you've been searching for, the center of your being, the truth buried under years of adaptation and fear. Jung believed that the ultimate goal of life was not success or social approval, but wholeness, to become who you truly are, beneath the masks, the wounds, the inherited scripts. He called this journey individuation. But individuation doesn't happen by chance. The self doesn't reveal itself to those who aren't willing to look inward. You have to seek it. You have to face what you've avoided. And you have to confront the reality that many of your thoughts, habits, and beliefs might not be your own. The greatest obstacle is fear. Fear of losing the identity you've built. Fear of discovering that the person you've been isn't who you really are. Fear of facing the parts of you that were buried so long ago you forgot they even existed. That fear keeps most people asleep, living from the persona, controlled by the shadow, and calling it a normal life. But once you begin questioning the roles you play and stop running from what you feel, something changes. You begin to feel a freedom you've never known. You realize you don't need to impress anyone. You don't need to earn your worth. You don't need to be anything other than real. And in that authenticity, something powerful awakens. The patterns that once ruled you start to lose their grip. You begin to see why certain relationships failed, why some emotions haunted you, why success never felt like enough. The self was always speaking. You were just too distracted to hear it. But individuation is not a solo journey. Within this inner transformation lie forces even deeper than the shadow forces that have shaped humanity for thousands of years. They are the archetypes' universal energies embedded in the psyche, and if you don't recognize them, they will run your life from the shadows. In the next chapter, we'll explore what these archetypes are, how they appear in your dreams, behaviors, and identity, and why understanding them is key to finally becoming who you were meant to be. The human mind is not a clean slate. It is an ancient landscape shaped by forces far older than our personal memories. Jung discovered that beneath our personal unconscious lies something deeper, the collective unconscious, a shared psychic layer that contains universal patterns of thought, emotion, and experience. From this field arise the archetypes' primordial images and energies that influence how we see the world, how we love, how we suffer, and how we grow. They show up as familiar characters in dreams, myths, stories, and even our own lives. The hero, the rebel, the sage, the caregiver, the trickster, the child. You do not choose them, they live in you. And when you're unaware of them, they take control. That's why people repeat the same relationship dynamics, the same fears, the same self-defeating behaviors, because they reliving out unconscious scripts written by archetypes they've then never met. When you only identify with one archetype, for example, always trying to be the hero, you suppress your vulnerability. When you live as the caregiver, you may forget your own needs. True self-discovery comes from balance, from recognizing which archetypes dominate your life and reclaiming the ones you've ignored. And how do you find them? Through your dreams. Through the impulses and patterns that seem to repeat. Through those moments where you don't recognize yourself. Archetypes are not just symbols. They're living energies. And if you ignore them, they will guide your life in directions you don't understand. But if you recognize them, they become allies, tools, mirrors. The difference between a life on autopilot and a life of conscious choice lies in this awareness. But what happens if you ignore all of it? What happens if you cling to the persona, deny the shadow, avoid the archetypes, and silence the self? Jung warned that the price of non-individuation is psychological suffering. It doesn't protect you. It fragments you. It creates a life of quiet anxiety, constant restlessness, and a haunting sense that you're existing but not truly living. Emotional crises, burnout, repeating toxic cycles, chronic dissatisfaction. All of it can be the soul's way of screaming, come back. Come back to who you are. Come back to what's real. Because the truth is, you can escape everything in this life except yourself. And if you refuse to meet yourself, you'll remain a stranger to your own existence. But there is another way. The way of courage. The way of inner truth. The path of individuation. It means facing what's been hidden. It means questioning everything you've believed about who you are. And it means discovering that beneath the fear, beneath the pain, beneath the conditioning, there is a deeper you, waiting to be remembered. So I ask you, are you ready to stop performing and start becoming? Are you ready to leave behind the illusion of safety and embrace the truth of who you really are? What mask are you ready to take off? This isn't the end. It's the beginning. The beginning of a life that finally feels like your own.